Hello, welcome back. My name is Ivanka and this is part 3 of our 4-part movie series on cloud computing and the introduction to cloud computing. Really hope you're enjoying part 1 and part 2, or were enjoying part 1 and part 2, and you are ready to listen to a presentation by me about platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. I'm going to tell you this 5 million times in the next 8 minutes. It's a high level introduction. It's not the complete dictionary on platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. It's all about giving you an introduction, some pointers, some hints and tips, and some things to think about in relation to platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. Hope you enjoy it. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Part 3 of the cloud computing introduction. In part 1 and part 2 I gave you an overview of a generic introduction of cloud computing, and part 2 was all about virtualization and software as a service. So in part 3 we're going to talk about platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. However, I got some questions to explain a little bit more in detail the difference between public and private cloud and what the pros and cons are of using either a public or a private cloud. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So this 4 parts video series is all about having a high-level introductory understanding of cloud computing. It's definitely not meant to be a full-on certification course. It's merely snippets of what's available and the information about cloud computing that you would find handy or helpful in your day-to-day work as an IT professional. So take it from the top. In the first video, we talked about the fact that cloud computing is all about the deployment method. So there's, in general, 4 different deployment methods. There's the public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. And the 3 service models are SaaS, PaaS, and infrastructure as a service. Like I said earlier, software as a service we talked about in part 2 of this video series, and today we're going to talk about platform as a service as well as infrastructure as a service. But let's have a look at the deployment models first. The public cloud is the type of deployment for cloud computing services that most people would be comfortable with, or at least know of. Most people would have used public cloud services on a day-to-day basis. However, most enterprises would either use a hybrid cloud model or a pure private cloud model. So let's have a look into the private cloud advantages. So why would you utilize private cloud over public cloud or a hybrid model? The biggest advantage is basically using the public cloud over private or hybrid is that there is a minimal capital expenditure outlay. You can utilize a pay-as-you-go or a subscription-based model for all your cloud services because you utilize what's already out there as a public cloud computing offering. Most enterprises, though, will look at the disadvantages a lot more than they would look at the advantages. Most of the advantages are based on cost and there's no upfront risk or commitment. However, the disadvantages are around scalability, lack of control, speed and performance, or the control around speed and performance, and reliability and security. And within the reliability and security, you also have your compliancy and your regulation requirements. Not every organization is allowed to utilize public cloud, so you need to do your homework before you sign up for any cloud service offerings. So software as a service, as we talked about in part 2 of this video series, is really the interface between an application and the end user. So there's an API between the application, which is offered as a service via the browser, to the end users. So it utilizes an internet connection to have access to software. Platform as a service, the key element of platform as a service is that it's an integrated environment with built-in integration. It supports your collaboration, and it really supports 2 different types of end users. But we'll talk about that with infrastructure as a service as well. The benefits of platform as a service is really, again, around costing. It's a pay-per-use pricing model because it's multi-tenancy. You don't have to have a proprietary platform. You don't need a proprietary server. You can piggyback, for lack of a better word, on platforms and resources that are already there. So your configuration changes can be pushed through quite quickly, and that's an important benefit of utilizing platform as a service. So each platform component is seen as a separate service, so you don't need to hire or you don't need to subscribe to the entire infrastructure. You can cherry pick and choose each platform component as a separate server and sign up for that particular service as opposed to the whole box and dice. So by default, because you have your multi-tenancy, you have each platform component as a separate service, it has that built-in elasticity that you would need as part of your service delivery. So how can you provide the best experience when you deliver platform as a service, as a solution to your clients? So like I said earlier, there's really 2 types of customers for this type of service, this type of cloud offering. You have your software developers who can use platform as a service for their build and deploy part of their job. And then there's the end users actually using applications on the platforms that you hire or that you subscribe to as part of your platform as a service provision. So there's 2 distinct types of service users or end users. So you have your IT professionals, your software developers who utilize it as a temporary or maybe even a permanent platform to build and deploy their applications. So you don't have to lay out the capital expenditure of a specific platform as part of your development and testing phase of your project. And then the second part are your users actually using the applications built on the platforms. Infrastructure as a service, so that's where you interface with your infrastructure as well as your storage. So storage is often part of your infrastructure as a service as well. So as a customer, when you wish to utilize infrastructure as a service cloud offerings, you need to actively manage authorized and unauthorized use of your cloud services, your organizational change processes, your adoption of the cloud, and how can you get business value out of your cloud services. As a cloud provider, so when you provide infrastructure as a services to your customers, so how can you assimilate your cloud architecture? What resources can you utilize both internal and externally? And the recovery of your cost. What is your pricing model? How do you recover your own investments and your own cost involved in delivering the service? So it's a different approach. As a customer, you're really looking at the business benefits, you're looking at a risk mitigation strategy, you're looking at security and privacy issues. As a provider, you're really looking at pricing models, availability of your services, and utilization. So things like capacity requirements come to mind. So again, this is a really high level overview of cloud computing services, things to sort of ponder and to think about when you either sign up for platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, or to think about if you are delivering these types of cloud services. So it's really up to you to make a conscious decision on what type of cloud services you sign up for. So the next time, last in this series of 4, we're going to talk about the management aspects of cloud computing as a whole. So I hope to see you next time. Thank you for listening.